What up, what up, what up? Real Fans Podcast back at again. Another week in the books. We're here. I'm your boy Gabe. That's Julian. Julian, say what's up to the people.
What's up, people? What's up, people? I like the shirt, Gabe. I've been trying to get a jersey version of that. I got the hat.
I had to support my boy to get a
Chisholm
Jr. You know, gotta represent Miami, even though they're playing terrible. But we'll get to that later. We'll talk a little baseball later. Let's talk about the biggest thing going on in sports. The NFL. NFL never stops making news every week. We have to talk about it. Top of the agenda. It's our A block. NFL news. We're in the middle of training camps. I think they started doing some teams started doing. I saw the Miami Dolphins. They played Tampa as a practice run, but we're getting geared in football, which is Julian's favorite kind of football. And news coming out of Jacksonville. The Jaguars plan to play their starters, including Trevor Lawrence. And the running back, Travis, name I refuse to say because I always get it wrong when I say it. Etienne. Julian, do you think this is a mistake on behalf of the Jaguars? Like, why are they starting their starters? I mean, what is
this?
You
need reps. I mean, everybody's going to be starting starters except for unless your name is like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. I don't know. I can't think of an old guy who's playing right now. But unless these super huge veterans, I think everybody's pretty much going to be playing their starters for the most part. I think they need the reps. You got a new coach, you got a new system. Some players are coming back. I just want to see 2 drives in and out. Only one of them has to be successful. If they got 2 disappointing drives, then I'm gonna be kind of upset. But I just want 2 drives as long as one is successful and we make some plays. It looks good, and then get out of there. Etienne, I want him to see him run the ball maybe a couple times and then pull him out. Don't even risk it anymore. Last thing we want is another preseason injury with this man. He missed his entire rookie season last year after being drafted in the first round. I want to see him actually play. He's going to be a big part of the offense. He's going to be that safety net for Trevor Lawrence. So, and we can't afford to have him go down because James Robinson is still recovering. He's supposed to be back this season, but he's still slowly recovering. So we don't want to be running out starting the season with a 3rd string running back. So, but no, I don't think it's a mistake. I'm sure Dolphins are going to do the same thing. Every other team, all these younger guys who are going to be playing, I think everybody's going to do it. I've actually been meaning, I want to go check out the new facility over at the Dolphins practice fields. I heard it's nice. I know all the training camp practices, they're sold out. They sell out they've been selling out the past 2 years. And fun fact, I don't know if you saw this, Gabe, Dolphins sold out season tickets for the first time in 20, 30 years, something like that.
Yeah, man. So the truth has come.
The truth. Tune on.
Expect this. Yeah, man. Dolphins camp. I think it's crazy. Just in general, we're talking about starters, whatever. It's always preseason. Expect a couple drives. But I'm seeing a lot, especially in linemen. We're playing that Tampa game. They're playing practice matchup. I think there was a lineman that got hurt. One of the Tampa linemen got hurt. I've seen Jason Kelsey is needing surgery. He's the center for the Eagles, right? Still plays for the Eagles. So you're seeing a lot of guys get injured. I don't really, honestly, man. Preseason, I honestly don't care. Stuff with Tua. You talk about the Dolphins camp. Stuff with Tua, all these passes. These people are recording video they're not supposed to record. They don't want anybody recording video at the facility. But people do it anyways, and you're seeing these bombs. Tyreek Hill. Bomb over Xavier Howard. So I just don't want anybody to get hurt, man. It's great to hear all this stuff, especially Miami Dolphins are getting hyped. Jaguars, they're supposed to be hyped. We're a year and a half past hype with the firing of their coach. So
speaking of training facilities, they're going to get their new one. I was going to say they're going to get their new facility next year. Right now, they're training out of a high school across the way. Because they're constructing the new practice fields, which is going over what the old practice fields were. So I might have to check that out next year for sure. They're actually going to add some shade, because before, trying to be out there in those July, August summers in Florida with no shade on a metal bleacher, those things are brutal. But I'm glad to see you do that. But preseason as a whole, it's It depends, like, I guess, on the situation. Like last year, I was a little bit more hyped because there's so much building up. Get to see your rookie quarterback play a little bit. I'm still a little excited to kind of see, like, I like kind of seeing the fringe guys, like seeing guys like make names for themselves. Like, all right, let's see what we can do here, kind of whatnot. But then when it gets towards the very end of the games, that's when it gets like pretty rough, especially in the first week. Once you get towards the, obviously they ramp it up as it goes. So you might do a couple drives. Your first preseason game, second game, you might play till halftime, and then like the third game, they'd play till like the third quarter. But yeah, I like it. I don't take too much out of it though. For when it comes to the starters, like I'm not gonna like worry about like them having bad drives, or unless it's like really atrocious and it's like, oh man, they need to clean that up. But it's a lot of it's just working out the kinks. It's just like it's a little appetizer. It's a little appetizer to get into things like. I tell you what, I love this sport, but man, it fucking sucks how easy it is to get injured in this game. Like it's like preseason for every other sport is just kind of just as fun, honestly. But it's just like here, you're like, you always get that injury in the back of your mind. Like I don't want to get hurt in preseason, no matter what sport, but like football, especially because it's such a contact sport. It's like, oh man, like just fall down, just fall down.
Speaking of rooting for the underdog, I don't know if you've seen anything out of Hard Knocks. I think Hard Knocks this year is covering the Detroit Lions. Have you seen anything out of that camp?
No. I briefly heard about the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Campbell.
Man Campbell. His name is Man Campbell.
Man Campbell.
Than anybody.
I saw every like couple weeks you hear like a ridiculous crazy story about him. He's literally like he's just like the prototypical just like ultimate meathead. Chad meathead like the most I recently saw was that he was doing like, I mean, he was going hard too, like he was doing like burpees like with the players, like, and he was like he was killing it. I didn't see if there was anything recently. Was there anything he did recently?
He just had funny quotes. He speaks in cliches. He's like, I don't care if you have 2 legs, 1 leg, 3 legs, we're going to kick your ass. He's just some wild shit. It's funny talking about the Dolphins because he was a former defensive coach for the Dolphins. It's just funny. I don't know. Was there any like memorable Hard Knocks that you remember, or was there a team that you follow? Did the Jaguars have a Hard Knocks?
We have not had a Hard Knocks yet. No.
I'm pretty sure they had Cowboys. They just recently.
They have the Cowboys all the time.
They had the Bengals.
They've had the Dolphins before. I remember it was when David Garrard went over there. I remember that, and they drafted Tannehill that year.
But I mean, how do you feel in general? Like, if Hard Knocks was covering the Jaguars, are you like, is that super interesting to you to trying to see?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think Hard Knocks is pretty sick. I love it. I love those like behind the scenes documentary things. Like I love watching it. Now you're starting to see it like obviously with other sports, with Formula One, surfing, football, obviously. Man, there's another big one that does it. I'm drawing a blank, but whatever. Regardless, I think it's cool no matter who it is. For this year. Are they separating preseason? Because I know like last year was the first year they did the full season.
Yeah.
With the Indianapolis Colts. Did they also do preseason with the Indianapolis Colts? Or was it like some other team had a preseason and then another team?
One time they had 2. They had 2 teams at a time. I can't remember specifically because I honestly like
the Chargers Rams. They did it for Los Angeles. They did 2 teams. Yeah.
So I mean. To me, I think it's kind of cool, like you said, for like the smaller teams that don't get shine. Like obviously for big teams, like any team, if it's like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Green Bay Packers, like that's going to be huge. Those are already huge market teams and big teams. So it's kind of cool that at least they shine on maybe smaller teams that are trying to grow. People, they have a story to tell. Like they have like an underdog, kind of root for them, whatever. But the Lions in general, I just think it's kind of funny. Like Man Campbell, he just says all the cliches. He's a meathead kind of guy.
So they're doing the preseason all the way to the end of the season.
I believe so. Let me look it up so I can get my facts.
Yeah, but
I believe so. But I just want to bring up I don't know. To me, like I said, preseason is not that interesting to me. I don't want people to get hurt. Get your guy, get them through training camp, get them up to speed. But I just want the season to start. You know what I mean? Like preseason, I don't give a goddamn. I don't give a goddamn if Tua throws 700 yards on 6 passes. Like I don't care about any of that shit. Just don't get hurt. You know what I mean? Get your guys trained.
Yeah, I'm glad we're starting to get into the wave where you're seeing more like these like docuseries and stuff. And then like, you know what's also really impressive about it too is that how quick they're able to pump them out. Like whatever happens that Sunday or that weekend, they got it up like next Thursday. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like such quick turnarounds, and that's really impressive. But yeah. Anyways, so
and,
what else you got? What else you got?
Other NFL news. Taysom Hill with the Saints. Taysom Hill has been switched to tight end. It seems permanently. It seems that Taysom Hill, one of my favorite players. He said, "This isn't necessarily what I want, but it's what's best for the team." Taysom Hill. Do you have any thoughts on
future
Taysom Hill?
Hall of Famer?
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on Taysom Hill going into the future as a tight end officially? Officially tight end. He's not going to be one of those flex utility guys in fantasy.
No, I think it's stupid. Like, why lock him in? Just keep him as whatever. Like, at the end of the day, he's not going to be a better tight end than people who've been playing tight end their whole life. He's a great player. He's a great weapon. But why just lock him into a tight end? And then from a fantasy perspective, that's great. Obviously, like he's going to put up more points because he's going to actually be rushing the ball. He's going to be, getting some. They're still going to throw the ball with him a little bit. I don't know. I don't see why do that, because now I don't know. I like the role that he had. I think him coming out of the backfield was great. I don't see why take up a roster spot for a tight end, because he's not a primary tight end at the end of the day. But regardless, this is just like, wordplay. I'm sure Sean Payton's still going to do it. He's going to do it with them. He's probably just going to see a lot less actual quarterback roles, but they're still going to be running the ball. I'm sure he's going to be catching a little bit, like little dunk passes to him in the backfield, but he's not going to be, there's no way you're going to throw him on the line and block. Like that. He's like, he's not going to be an official tight end. We saw what happened with Tim Tebow. He's just going to get, like, when him in the trenches, he's going to get worked, man. Like,
yeah, I like Taysom Hill. I think this is fine. Like, it's kind of what we expected. Like, I don't think he's like the greatest quarterback there is, but I think it's important to he's a really good player. He plays on all sides, right? He plays running back. He can play slot receiver. He can play tight end. He's on the punt return team on defense and offense. So like, get rid of that quarterback responsibility, right? You need quarterbacks and watching tape and studying film and getting reps, which that takes away reps. If you're doing you're tight end, you're like, how does that work in practice? Like, what are you doing specifically?
Just be an offensive weapon. Yeah.
So I think it's fine. Like, we all know he has a skill set in his back pocket. You know what I mean? So, and it's perfect. There's like a lot of, I think of Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman was a quarterback in college, and he became, a wide receiver. So it's fine to have that in your back pocket, but I think giving him the assignment of like, okay, you're just going to do offense, tight end. Like, he's a big body. He's fast. He plays well. He's fun. I don't know. He's fun to watch. He's one of the guys I root for watching. Like, I don't have a lot of guys.
I mean, he's going to look at it from a different perspective as well, for sure. I just think like calling him a tight end, like I think he's going to do the same thing he's always done, and I don't think you need to call him a tight end for that. Like the only time he ever threw the ball was like when Drew Brees was out, and then last year. But like when Drew Brees was like playing well and was starting every game, just keep him in that same role. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's where it excelled. Like trying to call him a tight end or him trying to train as a tight end, it's just, I don't think it's going to necessarily, I don't think it really means anything. Like, just have him be an offensive weapon, or they need to find some sort of like unofficial naming for like flex role or something like that, since that's becoming so popular nowadays. I mean, even look at Deebo Samuel, like taking runs out of the backfield, Cordell Patterson, like these flex roles, like just call them that, I don't know. But I mean, that's neither here or there. It's not that big of a deal. Like, it's just one of those things, I would say.
And obviously the biggest news of summer, still have to talk about Deshaun Watson and the Browns. I think they announced, I saw something that they announced that he's going to play all the preseason games. Any preseason game he's going to start, he's going to play.
Yeah.
Roger Goodell came out for an appeal for the special. They have on Tuesday's special league meeting in Minneapolis. So where's the quote? I gotta get Roger Goodell here. There's a quote by Roger Goodell. He says, "It was very clear about the evidence that the disciplinary officer Sue Robinson, and should we enforce the evidence? There was multiple violations here, and there's an egregious behavior, and it was predatory. The things that I always felt were important to us to address in a responsible way." So obviously, Roger Goodell seeking for more. I think he got 6 games? Was it 4 games? 6 games? Roger Goodell seeking more. He wants
6
a whole
games,
year, which is what we kind of talked about earlier. Julian, how do you feel about this? Is this Goodell just saving face, or does he actually? Do you think he actually cares about like how long Deshaun Watson's suspended?
I don't think he actually cares. I think it's all PR. I mean, we all know, and a lot of these players get away with a lot of shit. But now with like how society has been recently, it's like, like NFL has to save face and like kind of be more PR driven. I don't think Roger Goodell cares. Like at the end of the day, it's like I believe that if there was no PR aspect, he'd be like, all right, so you weren't charged with anything, you're not going to jail. All right, you could play. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think would happen if there wasn't such a PR perspective. But, I was thinking about it over the past week, and I was like, what makes this so crazy is that he got 6 games is meanwhile, Calvin Ridley legally betted on a sports game and he got the whole season.
Yeah.
Like that kind of shows you. The Dolphins talked to, speaking of that, we never brought that up, but maybe we could talk about that later, go into further detail about it. But like the Dolphins talked to Tom Brady and they got missing draft picks, fined like millions of dollars for just talking because it's tampering, whatever. But meanwhile, this guy does what he does and he gets 6 games.
Yeah.
He got two he don't think about it. He only got 2 more games than Tom Brady, who had a deflated ball.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I kind of expected this, right? Because I think I heard all along that Roger Goodell was upset. He was been looking for a year. I think that's what they recommended. Was a whole season and a half. So, and just to reiterate what the review was by the special committee or the special judge that they had, the players union and the NFL got together. They only reviewed 5 cases. So legally, I guess civilly, he's been accused, 23 times, or by at least 24 women.
It's like 24 recently. Because remember, he was 23 for a while, and then like the past couple months, 4 more came out. So like that.
So the case that they reviewed was actually only 5 cases. They only reviewed 5 cases of the 22 women that got accused. So, and of those 5 cases, they gave him 6 games. So what is that? One game per case. So I think it was pretty ridiculous. I think Roger Goodell actually cares about this. Like, I think he, him being the commissioner, him being empowered by the owners, I think he's going to bring down the hammer. I think the year is going to happen. The year suspension is going to happen. Now, you say, he sat out a year before. Well, he wasn't really punished. Like, there was nothing. There was just allegations, and they weren't doing anything right. They're letting the process.
They just weren't due process happen. He really just held out. Like, that's really what it was. I think he actually could play. He was on the bench, I think.
He was on the bench.
He was at the games. He just didn't dress.
And
it was really because he was holding out.
So they say, that's not an official, come from the league. Like, whatever. You volunteered to fucking sit out. That's on you, I guess. Maybe you should have played. Got some reps in. But this is what I heard about, like, that Roger Goodell want to come down hard on him and, him appealing. We'll see the results of it. Anyway, but like I said, he's still due to practice. I heard an announcement they're gonna play him in the preseason. He's gonna play.
Yeah, he's gonna play against the Jags. So I'm curious to see that.
We'll see. Going further about this news, I'm sure it's gonna, until the season actually starts. I'm sure Deshaun's gonna be a topic every week that we'll have. But we'll try to bring you updates as it comes.
Yeah. All right. I did to go back because we completely missed this. I did want to get your reactions on this about the Dolphins tampering scandal. We never got to that, and I just reminded me about it. So to recap everything that happened, the Miami Dolphins were tampering with Tom Brady. Tom Brady was still a part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is against NFL rules to tamper and talk to other players while players are still signed with a certain team. So the Dolphins were stripped of 2 draft picks. They were forced to relinquish a first round 2023 draft pick and a third round 2024 draft pick. And then Stephen Ross, the owner, is going to be suspended until October 17th, which I'm not sure what suspending an owner really does.
He can't go to the facility or something.
And he handed a $1.5 million fine for his part in tampering. So to him, that's like chump change, basically. But I think the biggest part of this is losing a first round draft pick. That is huge. And a third rounder in 2024. Do the Dolphins still currently have multiple draft picks coming up this year? Or did they trade them when they moved up?
I don't know. I think they traded more. Oh, well, they did trade when they trade down and they traded back up. I have to see. That's something I have to look up. I can't remember exactly what they have. Obviously, if they have a first round for next year, it's not even going to matter. The NFL is just going to skip over that. It says Uno skip card.
Here's another thing. Ross denied virtually everything and seemed outraged that his organization is being found guilty for tampering, but he's lucky the league's investigation gave him a pass on what could have made the NFL force him to sell the team. So I guess to an extent, the NFL could have forced him to sell the team, but obviously that's not going to go over well. So, I mean,
what you failed to do is the thing about him being accused of, paying or trying to pay Brian. What's his last name? I can't.
Brian Flores.
Where he was saying he'll pay him $100,000 to lose or whatever. It was like every game that you lose will tank to get a draft pick or whatever. And NFL didn't like that because now they're in the betting game.
Still took the wrong one.
The NFL didn't like that because now they're in the betting game, and you can't be tanking for Tua. While there's lots of money involved. And they're like, oh no, he was just joking. That was just he was just trying to tell, kiki, joke, ta 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 ta, gotcha, NFL. It was just a joke. I think that's pretty
crazy, funny. Man. It's pretty funny. Like that's what I was saying. Like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Tampering is like they take it very seriously in the NFL, which is kind of wild to me because like as somebody who I mean, I get it. I get why they do it. But like as somebody who watches like world football, like in like world soccer, like I do, like shit like that happens all the time and it's perfectly fine. Like there's players that sign for teams before their contract's up. So they got like a whole like you'll see like, for example, Toronto signed an Italian player in January, but he can't play until July because he still has to finish out his contract. You know what I mean? But obviously the NFL is one entity. They're not separate entities like that. Every team's a franchise, but it is kind of crazy how serious they took that and the sports betting. But then
again, Ridley got a whole year. He bet on his team. He bet on his own team legally in the state he was allowed to. Bet on his own team, got a whole year. And
yeah, it wasn't even like he bet on the other team. Like he had
Stephen Ross, offers $100,000 per game loss, and pop out little. Hey, you can't come till October 8th or whatever the fuck. I don't know, whatever dumb shit.
Yeah, that's such a like you're gonna suspend an owner. Like I don't see what that does anything. Like owners don't even show up to the games half the time, regardless.
The hypocrisy of this democracy. Anyways, let's go off. Let's talk about the NBA real quick because the biggest news still is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant came out again this week. He came out to his owner, Joe Tsai, and said that he does not have faith in the Nets' direction. There was a meeting that they had with KD had with the owner. They said it was transparent and professional and with a clear message. Keep me or the GM and the coach. You cannot have both. So KD still a domino to fall. I feel like he's the biggest whale, even though he has 4 years left of his contract in Brooklyn. How do you feel about this, Julian? Is he still posing? Do you actually believe KD when he says that he wants to get out of here? You said at the beginning of the summer before free agency, Now he said it again. He said apparently had this meeting with the owner and said it again right to his face. So, Julian, is Katie for real? Do you think Katie's can still be a net?
Well, yeah, one, I think he's for real. Like, I think he clearly wants to leave. We've seen it in his past. Like, when he wants to go, he throws his tantrums to go to the best team possible. Will he still be a net? Yes, I think he will be. I think the Nets have all the leverage in the world. I think if Katie had actual leverage, he wouldn't go and sit down with the team and like say like it's either me or the GM or the coach. He clearly doesn't have leverage. Nobody's going to have the compensation to trade for him. And then even if a team was to, that team's going to get worse because of all the compensation they had to give up. So I think he's stuck unless he sits out, which, like we've talked about this last week. I don't see why you sit out, because the team can still make the playoffs. Maybe you're not a home run title to contender like you thought you were when Harden went over there. But I mean, it seems like Kyrie's coming back. Maybe Ben Simmons with a change of scenery can play well. Who knows about that? But I mean, you still have a team that could potentially make the playoffs, and you could possibly get out of the first round. And he's getting at an age where it's like, do you really want to skip a year? You know what I mean? So what this does speak to me is like he vouched for Steve Nash, and it sounds like he wants Steve Nash out. After him and the whole team were vouching for Steve Nash after obviously the ridiculous Stephen A comments that were made, like, what was it, last year or something like that?
So I think it's pretty crazy. Like, he kind of put himself in the situation. Obviously, it seemed like him and Katie and Kyrie were running the whole damn program. Like you said, they got the coach they wanted. It was suggested Steve Nash apparently came available after retirement. And that's the coach they wanted. They got their guy. They made all these trades for Harden. They got their guy. They started their big three. Come to the season, they don't play. Actually, vaccinations. They don't play all together. They play like a total like 12 games, 14 games all together on the same floor. Like not even they even play a lot together. So it's kind of weird. This is all KD's construction with Kyrie. You signed the extension for 4 more years, and you're not happy. It's like what are you doing? Like you're running the whole damn show, and now you're not happy with the show. Like,
and you knew everybody knew who Kyrie was before he went to the Nets. We all knew who he was. There's always a question if he really loved the game, if he was going to really show up. James Harden, he's always been kind of a guy where he's got all the talent in the world, and he's so talented, and he can show up when he wants to, but you always question his seriousness about it. And when we talked about last week with him resigning with the Sixers, it seems like, yeah, okay, he's getting like really serious about this. So like, to me, it's like, yeah, you got to live with what you dealt with, and now you don't like it, and you want them to get you out of it. Like, I mean, you didn't see LeBron complaining when he went to the Lakers and that team didn't even make the playoffs. I mean, he complained, but not like he wasn't like requesting trades or anything immediately. Like, he dealt with it. He knew what he signed up for, and he sticked with it. And he still did even this year with them not even making the play-in game. No, they didn't make the play-in game. So it's just like, and that's coming from a LeBron hater. Like, I'm not a big LeBron fan. I wouldn't even call myself a hater. I'm just not a big LeBron fan. I think people, whatever. But yeah, I mean, like, why can't you bring people to you? Like, if you're one of the best players in the world, like, people should want to be able to play with you. And like, I don't know if it's the GM not taking his suggestions. Maybe that's why he's upset with the GM and like Steve Nash. Maybe like he wants certain people and wants them to sign and trade for people, but they're not doing it, or what? I don't know. There could be something deeper. Like, maybe he is being outspoken, like, hey, we want these people here, but they're not doing it. So he's like, all right, whatever. Like, you guys aren't going to do like, give me like better help than I want out. But yeah. Like I said, Nets have all leverage, though. So what are they going to do?
The Nets do have all leverage. Do? And you know, it's crazy. Like I said, we talked about earlier this summer how the Rudy Gobert trade kind of set the standard. And I don't think there's any teams out there that can meet. If they like straight up, I don't think they can straight up meet what the Nets need or what they're going to ask for KD. 4 more years of KD.
And teams think they can win without him. Like I think a lot of the teams like that are contenders, they believe they can win without him, and that's not super great for his
next man up, man. Ben Simmons. Value. Ben Simmons, next man up.
Good luck with that. Ben Simmons gonna. Hey, I'll make a bet right now. Ben Simmons plays in Europe within the next 5 years.
Wow. Well, 5 years. No, do it tighter. I say the next
3 years.
Next 1 year. That's a little bit.
He's gonna be playing in Europe.
My take is a little bit hotter. The next 1 year, he'll be playing in Europe.
So you think next year he's gonna be playing in Europe or Australia?
Europe or Australia. Those are different continents.
Or Africa or something.
But yeah, I think it's kind of weird. As far as the Miami Heat, it seems like they're trying to straight up. Like they said, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are they're no-goes, no deals. So, and
that's what they would have to give up to get a KD.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think there's any suitors. Even though KD, who's the mastermind of all this, says I want to go to the Suns or I want to go to Miami. I don't think Miami can match whatever they're asking for. The Nets gonna have to be desperate. So in order for KD to move, he's gonna have to get it's gonna have to get real ugly. Like he's gonna have to just literally not show up for work, not show up to practice, not show up for work, and they're gonna have to suffer. I don't know. The Brooklyn's gonna have to suffer hard enough where the fans are just get rid of him, give him up for a goddamn ham sandwich or something. But I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think the Nets are going to empower they're not going to trade with the Miami Heat to empower the Heat to beat them in the same conference. You know what I mean? So I think as time goes on, without a third team, without Miami Heat getting a third team possibly to mix and match with the trades, I think Miami Heat trading straight up for KD is not going to happen. So KD, I think if he does get traded, it's probably most likely to a Western Conference team. I don't think he's going to be traded within the conference. No way. Why would the Nets do that and get nothing?
No. And then have to go up against them directly. I did want to ask. So, did the whole Donovan Mitchell, Bradley Beal trade hype die down pretty much? Is that pretty much
Well, yeah. When Bradley Beal re-signed, he's on the.
Yeah, but I heard he was even though he re-signed, he was still on the market. Supposedly,
he was. I believe. Yeah, he was on the market.
He re-signed, but he was still willing to be traded.
Yeah. But I think he's going to stay there. He's going to get paid too much. People like him there. Apparently he likes it there. So
Bradley Beal, man, that team off the table. Sucks. I don't know. I would love to see a Bradley Beal in Miami, and same with the Donovan. Those two players seem like such a perfect fit down here. I don't know why he stays in Washington. Yeah. They gave him help one time for not even one time, half a season. They gave him help half a season. Or no, did Westbrook play the whole season there?
He played the whole. I think he played the whole season there. He was a Washington.
Okay, so So they gave him a help for one season.
Also, you bring up Donovan Mitchell. It's funny because all these guys they play in the off season. I think I saw highlights of Giannis. He's playing for Greece. So he's playing in the Europe League for Greece. Had a big dunk, big highlight, whatever. But these guys play in the off season. You bring up Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was in the Miami League. That they have going on in the summertime, and lots of Miami chants going on, and he was just kind of staring blankly, and then kind of smile, a little smirk, a little Miami. So that's kind of funny. That's kind of weird. I think something like that, Donovan Mitchell would be more likely to come to Miami than.
But has that died down? I feel like it's died down.
I think KD. The longer this goes, without a third team or without some crazy 5-team trade. I think KD is going to end up being a net, and he's going to have to decide whether he wants to show up for work or not. You know what I mean? That's going to be up to him as we get closer to the season. But
I'm looking at some recent articles. It looks like there could possibly it's still getting heating up with Donovan Mitchell going to the Heat. They're talking. The most recent one I'm seeing is a multi-team trade package with the Jazz, Heat. And who else is it?
But that's another thing too. Because isn't the guy who played for it's not McHale. Who's the
Knicks too?
Oh, the Knicks.
That's what it's saying. I don't know. Obviously, who knows how trustworthy this is?
Let me look.
But I mean, regardless, I don't know, man. It's kind of late. Like, I think they're going to start the season with them. I think they'll start the season, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the move during right before trade deadline.
Yeah.
Because
we'll see.
And I think once because right now everybody's like, all right, I think right now we're at the point where everybody's like, let's wait and see when the season starts. See who the contenders are, see where you're seeding, what's it's gonna look like. If the Heat feel like the Celtics are just on a roll, like, and they need that extra firepower, then maybe you do that trade. You give up Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and whoever else you can throw in there to get.
They'll love them in Utah. They love Utah. Love the white boys.
John Stockton.
In other news, I just want to bring this up real quick. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me. NBA started a podcast to celebrate fashion and off the court topics with the NBA players. I don't know if you heard or saw anything about this. No. I had some interesting thoughts about it. What do you think about the NBA starting a fashion podcast? Like, why would you start it like an official NBA podcast? Do you have any idea? Does this sound interesting to you, Gene?
I mean, I probably won't listen to it, but I mean, if they feel like it's a way to like reach more people and whatnot, like, then yeah, I mean, it just seems like NBA is just linking themselves to like, sneaker culture and like fashion culture that's like so hype right now, and they're just trying to like get their foot in it. You know what I mean? Like, take advantage of the players that they have. Obviously, sneaker cultures comes from basketball attire, so it's like, I mean, it's cool. It's smart marketing move. Like, so I mean, that's how I look at it. It's a marketing move, and it's smart. And then you're gonna get, like, you're gonna cross pollinate that demographic. So why not?
Yeah, the reason why I bring up the story, because I think it's more interesting that it's really, I think you think about, some major sports league is going to make a fashion podcast. I think the NBA is probably the most likely, right? Because I think the NBA celebrates the individual player better, right? I saw this a little bit with the MLB over the All Star Weekend. They had like a whole red carpet thing, and they had these guys come out. They showed Sandy Alcantara with Jazz Chisholm. Boy, they put them on the red carpet. They're taking pictures. All these fashion, like, what's your swag? Let's talk about your chain, whatever. So it's interesting to see like the individual personalities in that aspect. But that's really for the All Star Weekend, right? We're trying to celebrate baseball and all the great players, for that half of the year. So, and the NBA is like uniquely positioned to do that for its players, because they do that a lot. Like, you see the players walk in and they're all wearing their fashion, and it's always a big thing on Twitter. Like, everybody's talking about, look at his shoes, or fucking Ben Simmons is goofy. He looks like he's wearing a goddamn throw rag or some shit.
Yeah.
So the NBA
throw rag.
I think they're the most unique league. Maybe MLS could do something like that, because you have more international players. That would be interesting to see something like that, like a fashion podcast, whatever it is, because I think the NBA especially is more friendly to, like I said, exposing the individual players. You get your guys that you get to root for, right? Like I said, MLS could possibly be a league where it happens, but like, I don't see this happening in the NFL or baseball, really.
No, those two leagues are too old heads. Like, they're too stuck in their ways, like NFL and especially MLB. Like I said, I think it's a smart future move too. Like, because I think a lot of traditional sports are starting to understand that there's a lot of competition out there for young people to get young eyeballs. There's just a lot of things going on through social media, video games, so on and so forth. And I know a lot of the leagues have been pretty stagnant in viewership. And so I think leagues as a whole are going to start kind of figuring out more creative ways to expand their brand out. And like I said, this is a good like test subject to kind of do that. And obviously you're seeing it too. Like, we were talking about like this Hard Knocks and the sports documentaries, NFL really leaning into that, doing full seasons. And then like we saw it with like Formula One and other things like, and And obviously more leagues are going to want to do that because now you're getting into that traditional movie, television, storytelling route. Like, trying to expand the brand as it is, because I think as of right now, a lot of the leagues are pretty capped. And NFL's doing it in their own different way with, instead of like, they're really focusing on international. They're probably focusing on international more than any other league in the United States. I would love to see basketball really lean into international. I think that could be really cool. But I don't think players are going to really be down for that. But yeah, I think it's a good way to keep on growing that brand and try and keep on trying to bring those people in.
All right. Speaking of trying to bring people in, let's talk about your sport, Julian. Let's talk about the MLS. They had a game last night. The United States played Liga MX, and I didn't watch the whole game.
All-Star weekend.
I didn't watch the whole game. I just know they like off the rip the American team like scored like within like the first 2 minutes or something. It was pretty crazy. They have Chicharito who's playing for the All Star, right, for the US.
Yeah,
and Vela,
Carlos Vela,
a good 1-2 punch. Julian, I just want to get your thought because you're our resident soccer expert, MLS expert. Did you see any of this game? Any of the highlights? What are your thoughts of looking like the U.S. is actually competing with the Mexican League?
Yeah, so I missed the game because I was out and about, but I ended up watching the highlights. I watched a good chunk of it. I did watch the skill challenges because it was All-Star weekend for MLS. It was being hosted in Minnesota. And this is the second year where MLS has partnered with Liga MX to do Liga MX All Stars versus MLS All Stars. Prior years, they've always done MLS All Stars versus name your top 5 league powerhouse team, whether it be Manchester United, Real Madrid, whatever. They did that for a long time. But this year, they're continuing that relationship with Liga MX. Of combining that partnership, and it's really smart to do this. Obviously, Liga MX is the most watched league in the United States when it comes to soccer. It outperforms the Premier League, outperforms La Liga by a lot. So MLS it outperforms MLS in viewership. So they know, partner with your neighbor. You know what I mean? And it's in best interest for Liga MX because Liga MX is in a situation where they're very, in a way, kind of stagnant. They're a lot of the teams aren't making a lot of money. The national team's not performing well, and they're seeing MLS come up on this rise, and they notice that like MLS is starting to do things right. They're getting on this. MLS is catching up, and they're growing and getting stronger every season. And then we talked about a couple months ago, the Apple deal was absolutely huge. Sealing that Apple deal, it's going to bring more money to the MLS and more teams can spend. And for a long time, there was this huge disparity between Liga MX and MLS. Liga MX had way more money. They had higher profile players, and MLS, they just couldn't play their players that much due to their salary cap restrictions and just like the overall like viewership and the revenue of the league. But throughout those years, MLS has been slowly reaching, and it's to about the same point as Liga MX. And Liga MX is noticing that, and they don't want to eventually be surpassed by MLS. So they're starting to copy some of that formula because I know I'm kind of digging a little deep, but I think it gives a little backstory. The MLS, what they've been excelling at recently over the past, let's say 5-6 years, is bringing in talent super young, performing them really well, and then exporting them out to Europe. So these 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are playing really well in the academies, boom, send them right over there. Let them develop in these top academies in the world. Let them develop. This is going to eventually come back and help the U.S. national team. And if the U.S. national team does really well, obviously it's going to help support the domestic league. So Liga MX is seeing this because what Liga MX did for a long time, all their top talent, they would keep them in this domestic league. But it stunted Mexico's growth, which is why Mexico has never really been super competitive in a World Cup, is because even though they have a massive talent pool with the population that they have and a soccer loving culture, they've been stuck because they keep their talent in. They're not exporting it out to some of the top leagues in the world. So they looked at it as like a graduation process. Like you had to do well in Liga MX before we sent you off to Europe versus USA. We're here in the MLS Academy. It's like, all right, you're playing well. Let's ship you off. 19 years old, 20 years old, ship them off over there. Go play in there. So, and we're starting to see those effects. And then MLS growing in attendance, getting more money. You're starting to see a little bit more of a level playing field, and Liga MX and the New Mexico as a whole has just been taking absolute L's, losing the Gold Cup, losing to the USA in the qualifiers, MLS beating them twice. It's just like US winning in Nations League. So it's just a continued partnership that's going to do well. MLS won their first CONCACAF Champions League, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. So it's really interesting. It's really cool to see such a growth. And I think that's why I love the MLS so much, is like every other league, man, we're the best at it. We're the best at baseball. We're the best at basketball. We're the best at football. Even on the national stage, we're the best at it. It's the one sport where we kind of feel like the underdog. And you see us like slowly chipping away at the big dog. Like, it's really cool to see. And obviously next year they're going to start the new Leagues Cup tournament, which is every team in MLS and every team in Liga MX going to do this March Madness bracket, and the top 3 go to the Champions League. So it's really cool. But yeah,
I just found it interesting that, some of the best Mexican players are actually on our team, like on the US team, the MLS team.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting. Like, it's like, who do you root for? If you're a Mexican fan, like, who do you root for? You root for obviously you root for La Liga, but like they have Mexican players on the team. So I think,
and that's what a lot of Mexican fans were upset about. It's like, wow, the Mexican, we have MLS has more Mexican. This All Star game, MLS had more Mexican players than Liga MX All Stars. A lot of Liga MX All Stars come from other places in South America and Central America. So it was like US had more Mexican players than Liga MX, which is kind of crazy. Obviously, a lot of those are US born, except for like the exceptions like Chicharito and Carlos Vela. Those are guys who played in Mexico and whatnot. But some of these guys here, I mean, they're Mexican American born, so they grew up through the system. But I hope you can get into it, Gabe. We'll watch the playoffs.
We'll see, man. I maybe, depending on how good the Dolphins are at the beginning of the season, maybe I'll start watching. You're like, oh, let me watch some MLS.
Inter Miami is in the heat of a playoff race, and it's 6-team playoff race. Everybody's tied from 5th to 11th. It's all same points. And it's the top 7 get to the playoffs. So it's a very, very heated, very, very close playoff race right now. So it's pretty entertaining.
Let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about some GOAT talk. Came out this week. Serena Williams came out in Vanity Fair announcing that she's probably going to retire. I don't think there was a definitive date. Also retire from tennis to expand her family and focus on her venture capital firm. Telling Vogue, something's got to give. How do you feel about Serena Williams announcing in her age, I don't want to say advanced age, but she's up there. She's now 40. She's pushing 40. Announcing her retirement. How do you feel about Serena Williams at this point in time announcing her retirement? Is she the GOAT?
It's so crazy. Like I don't remember a time where she wasn't playing, or I've heard of her not playing. Like, as long as I've been alive and I can remember, she's always played. So, I mean, I don't blame her. I mean, walk off into the sunset. You had nothing else to prove. You've done it all multiple times. I'm surprised she's even stayed for this long, to be honest with you. She could have retired 6 years ago and still be the greatest ever. Like she was an athletic a freak who just like was so good. I don't want to use the word freak because it sounds weird, but like she was just so so much more talented than everybody else, and it's she should go off and like continue business and like raise her family and expand her family and whatnot. Because like she deserves it, you know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy, like the length of her career. Like she is the best. I'm not even a huge like tennis fan, but Serena Williams, like somebody that I grew up with as a kid. Like I remember watching before even Serena came out. I remember watching Venus. Like I don't know if you remember this in elementary school. You used to have a book fair. You have a book fair in elementary school.
Yeah.
You go to the library. You bring your measly $10, and you can get buy books and posters and shit. When I was growing up, the biggest posters around were Favre, Shaquille O'Neal with Penny Hardaway, and Venus Williams. Not even Serena, Venus Williams. And
Venus is
it's kind of crazy because she kind of exceeded to me in my eyes. She kind of exceeded her sister. I think she was way better than her sister. And
oh yeah,
I'm trying to think of like what. It's so crazy to have a long career and a so successful career, and like who are your contemporaries, right? Like you can say in tennis for the men, right? You always see Federer, you always see Nadal or Agassi. You always see like the top guys. There's always like those 3 or 4 guys that you always see. They're always in the championship. There's always
Federer
the best
and Nadal for my whole, like
for Serena. For Serena, who is her biggest competitor? Like who is her biggest rivalry? Like she dominated so much for so long. It's like I can't even think. Her sister was probably her biggest rival. I'm trying to think. I'm looking now at the wiki.
Her sister, from what I understand, I'm not a big tennis guy. I don't know much, but from what I recall, her sister was only really good for like a couple years spanned. Like and I believe her sister was always like a top 10 player in the world, but she was never like. I'm sure, like obviously them as in doubles, like they dominated in doubles, but in singles, like her sister was always like obviously one of the best in the world, but I don't think she was like. I don't know how many times she's ever beat Venus or how many more like Grand Slams and like championships she has over Venus. I mean, Serena, my bad.
Yeah. Well, she's has 73 career titles, 5th overall.
Jesus.
Australian Open, French Open, and Wimbledon, U.S. Open. She's won and dominated. Grand Slam. She's the GOAT, man. She's one of the greatest of my lifetime. I mean, like I said, I'm not really a super fan and huge into tennis, but I know Serena Williams. I know that name. I know that she dominated. Kind of like, how everybody thinks of Tiger Woods, how, he was this prospective kid and dominated the sport. Like, that's Serena Williams in my eyes. More than her sister. And her sister was successful as well, but I don't think she was as successful as Serena.
Like I said, I think her sister was always a top 10 player in the world. I don't know if she was ever like, I don't think she'll ever be deemed as like one of the best ever. I don't really know women's tennis like that, but I do know she was like a competitive athlete in the sport for sure. It wasn't like she was just like there for a couple of years and then she got kicked off the tour or whatever. Like she was always like up there and ranked. It's like pretty high.
And by the way, just to clean it up, she is 40. Her birthday is coming up in September, so she'll be 41. So I think it's about the right time to retire, man. She wants to have a family. She just she gave birth and came back after giving birth to play while she was still had a little pregnancy belly. I think that's incredible. Like her physically tough, dominant, GOAT status. And I'm talking about dominant, not only dominant in her sport, but like dominant. Who you think of the dominant people, right? You think of like Tom Brady. Who are the ultimate winners? You want to say Derek Jeter's a winner, Michael Jordan's a winner. You got to put Serena's name up there. She's got to be the GOAT. She's got to be the GOAT.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. In her sport.
Last news. UFC. I don't know if you want to talk about the UFC 278 is coming up on August 20th in Salt Lake City. The biggest fight is going to be Usman versus Edwards 2.0. Julian, how hype are you for this fight? Obviously, we're going to talk about it more as we get closer and closer to the week. But I want to talk to you because you're a resident expert. Usman Edwards 2. Are you hyped?
You don't call me. People in the podcast are going to look at me and say, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's no expert. I'm like, dude, I'm not an expert. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a dry spell right now. Seems like to be the most intriguing fight to watch again. Leon Edwards is good, man. He's good, but Usman is so you can knock off the champ. Like you're not going to be a favorite, and I would imagine Usman comes in here and wins again. Like I don't see him losing it for a while. I haven't really seen a guy really match up to him. Even though Edwards is a pretty fucking strong dude too. Like so, these guys are no joke. Like these guys are physical like freaks. Like it's going to be a wrestling match for the days. It's going to be a boring match for sure.
Wow, you think?
I don't know if you stop everything to watch it. It's going to be boring, but I mean, it is like probably his toughest competitor in a minute. So yeah, I do like the co-main event with Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold. That's going to be a good fight. Looks like Jose Altidor's not Altidore. Jose Aldo is also fighting in the fight before the co-main event. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I'm obviously going to like watch this fight a little bit, see how it goes. I'm not expecting much. Like I said, the Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold one, that I think is going to be really entertaining to watch. But the Usman fight and Leon Edwards, they're both great fighters, but just due to how they fight, it's going to be pretty boring. Like my guess.
Man, I think Usman turned a corner, man. I think he showed his last couple fights, winning the belt, like he can stand up and fight as well. It's not just going to be a boring grab and stomp your feet, stomp your toes kind of fight. I think he's kind of turned a corner, and any 2.0 everybody's going to watch. So I'm kind of interested in the fight. This is one of the most interesting fights of recent, besides the Pena Nunes fight that happened.
By the way, you want to know the last time they fought each other? It was because I saw two. I'm like, damn, when the hell did they fight each other before? Like I never heard of them fighting. They last fought in December 2015 in Orlando, and he lost to Usman in decision. So that was 6.5 years ago. So I was like, Leon Edward Usman too. Like, when did he fight him? I was like, you still got to count it, even though it was like so long ago.
I think it's gonna be interesting. I mean, as we get closer, obviously it's going on 20th.
Don't get me wrong, so, I'm watching it. Like I'm watching. I think it's his toughest competitor yet. But just due to how these guys fight, I don't see them standing up for very long. It's not going to be a striking match.
Speaking of striking, we're going to strike down this podcast. We're going to just punch it down because I think we locked it out this week. Hopefully we'll have JoJo on next week. We'll talk more MLB. Again, we'll bring you more news on the NFL as we closer and closer to preseason. MLS, baseball, soccer, all the sports. We'll cover. We're going to cover slam ball. That's this podcast.
Slam ball. We're going to do a slam ball. Pick your team.
By the way, we got this team organized, right? Our fantasy team. This is just a side note. It's not
for us.
All right, we're getting our fantasy teams. So as we get closer and closer to the season,
we'll go over our lineups once we on the podcast. Once we do the draft and everything.
But we appreciate all the downloads. Julian, tell them where they can find the podcast.
You can find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Pocket Cast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I don't know where else. YouTube podcast, if that's a thing. Literally anywhere. Stitcher. And then all the social medias, of course, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Appreciate all the love on YouTube with all the subscriptions. Same thing with all the followers on Twitter, and not Twitter. Twitter too, if we got any new ones. Gabe's in charge of that one, so I don't know. But Facebook and Instagram, been doing well, doing good. But yeah, guys, appreciate all the love.
All the love and all the hate too. We appreciate all those comments. You can write it down, because trust me, when you guys leave a hateful comment about, especially with some shit,
it's funny,
some dumb shit I said, Julian is on it. Julian has sent it to me. He's tweeting the whole group. He's like, look at this shit. He's like, yo, Gabe, they're getting in that ass. Gabe, look at this. How you gonna respond?
Cheeks.
So, anyways, we appreciate all the love, all the hate, all the subscriptions, likes. Thank you for the downloads. We appreciate y'all checking out. Check us out next week. We'll be talking more NFL, more MLB, MLS, all the news, all the sports right here at Real Fans Podcast. We'll see you next week.